Boom. In the emerald green bamboo forest, heavy footsteps echoed. Each step seemed to make the very earth tremble as if it could barely bear the weight. Yet, surprisingly, the one whose steps carried such a mountainous weight was not some towering, ironclad giant, but rather a lean, black-robed middle-aged man. He emerged from the bamboo forest, walking toward the stone tower. Only upon seeing the gray-robed elder standing there did he finally halt, his voice calm and emotionless. "Why has Elder Gu summoned me?" The elder, known as Elder Gu, lifted his head, his eyes flashing with a hint of light as he chuckled. "Long Xiang, congratulations. It seems you successfully touched upon the realm of perfect Earth Supreme." The man before him, Long Xiang, exuded an aura as deep as an abyss. It was as though he carried countless mountains upon his back. With every motion, ripples of pure, tangible power spread outward, causing the very space around him to quiver. "It's merely half a step in. At best, you could call it half-step great perfection." Long Xiang spoke indifferently. Elder Gu smiled. "With your talent, taking that final step is only a matter of time. Achieving true great perfection will come naturally." Long Xiang didn't refute this. He had the confidence that true great perfection was well within his reach. "Elder Gu, what is it?" Not dwelling on the subject, he pressed again. Elder Gu grinned, nodding. "There's a task for you." "Oh, a capture mission." The target, a lower Earth Supreme. With a flick of his finger, Elder Gu conjured a flash of spirit light, revealing the image of a tall and imposing young man, Chen. Long Xiang frowned. "A mere lower Earth Supreme, and you need me to take action?" "Heh, this is no ordinary lower Earth Supreme." With such a realm, he managed to seize a spot in the upper Earth Supreme battlefield during the Continental Air Championship in the Western Heaven continent. Even the Western Battle Emperor's personally trained disciple fell at his hands. "This young man is quite extraordinary." Elder Gu smirked. "Few among upper Earth Supremes can handle him. That's why we need someone like you, a half-step great perfection." Hearing this, Long Xiang's eyes narrowed slightly before nodding. "Then he is indeed a remarkable one. For someone of lower Earth Supreme strength to achieve such feats, it was impressive, even to someone like Long Xiang, who hailed from the Futu ancient clan. After all, not even their clan's top young elites could necessarily accomplish the same. Who is he? And why must we capture him?" Long Xiang turned to Elder Gu. Elder Gu chuckled. "This is a direct order from the First Elder." At those words, Long Xiang's pupil shrank abruptly. Then, as if realizing something, he shot a sharp look at Elder Gu, his voice turning cold. "He's the one on the arrest order issued by the First Elder, isn't he?" "Indeed, the Sin child," Elder Gu said flatly. Boom. The moment those words fell, Long Xiang's expression darkened, and a terrifying force erupted from his body. A deafening roar of dragon elephants echoed within, sending waves of overwhelming pressure surging toward Elder Gu. Roar. Facing this immense power, Elder Gu's gaze sharpened. Behind him, golden light gathered, condensing into the form of a golden lion's head. With a deafening roar, the lion head shattered the crushing force rushing toward him. Their sudden clash sent Long Xiang staggering half a step back, while Elder Gu's body trembled slightly. That brief exchange made Elder Gu frown. Long Xiang was indeed only at half-step great perfection, but his innate divine strength, combined with the dragon elephant subduing god art, made his raw power terrifying. If a real battle broke out, even Elder Gu, though confident in victory, would pay a price. "Long Xiang, are you planning to defy the clan's orders?" Elder Gu's voice carried a regal might, like an indomitable lion king. A dangerous glint flickered in Long Xiang's eyes. But after a moment, he slowly restrained his aura and spoke coldly. "That child belongs to the young Mississippi. He's no Sin child. Gu Shi Wang, watch your tongue." "Humph. Although Qing Yanjing was once your master, now she is a sinner. She violated the clan rules and tainted the noble bloodline of my Futu ancient clan. This is an unforgivable crime," Elder Gu said in a deep voice. "If you have any objections, feel free to go to the Elder Council. If they change their minds, I naturally won't repeat these words." Long Xiang's face darkened, and he sneered, "I can't be bothered to argue with you. I'm not going." Elder Gu lowered his eyelids and said, "The Emerald Spirit bamboo on Emerald Spirit Island is about to mature, and I must stay here. If you don't go, I'll have no choice but to report this to the clan, and then the First Elder might send someone. Who knows who they'll send?" "Long Xiang, we just want to capture this sinner alive. If you make a move, you might spare this young man's life for the sake of your former master. Otherwise, if you anger the First Elder and he sends someone, then this young man's fate might not be in his own hands." Long Xiang glared at Elder Gu, his eyes flickering slightly. After a moment, he sighed. Fine, I'll go. At least if he went, he wouldn't be too harsh on the young master's child. But if the clan sent someone who didn't get along with the young master, then anything could happen. Elder Gu smiled when he heard this. It's good that you've come to your senses. At this point, he suddenly paused and smiled again. However, Long Xiang, I hope you won't return empty-handed. If you do, I might have to hand over that girl imprisoned on Emerald Spirit Island to the clan for punishment. Under their tortures, she might not fare well. Long Xiang's expression darkened again, and he stared at Elder Gu, slowly speaking, Gu Shi Wang, I advise you not to go too far. Even though the young master is imprisoned now, you should know exactly who she is. Even the first elder can't do anything to her. If you truly anger her, I think no one in the clan will be able to protect you. In the eyes of the young master, you're just an old dog that can be crushed with a flick of the hand. Hearing Long Xiang's blunt words, Elder Gu couldn't help but twitch his face. His eyes narrowed with anger as he glared at Long Xiang and sneered, Humph, I don't believe the clan will let her do whatever she wants. Despite saying this, Elder Gu clearly wasn't as fierce as before because he knew full well how many ways a heavenly supreme could deal with him. Long Xiang glanced at him with disdain, too lazy to say any more, and turned to leave. Elder Gu watched Long Xiang leave with a darkened expression, gritting his teeth and muttering, let you be smug for now. Once the young master becomes the clan leader, the entire Futu ancient clan will be under our control. At that time, we won't be as indecisive as the first elder. And once we capture that center, I don't believe Qing Yinjing won't obey. Long Xiang left the stone tower but did not depart. Instead, he walked towards the depths of the bamboo forest, where there stood a black pagoda. He entered the black pagoda and descended to the bottom. Here, it was dark and silent. At the bottom of the tower stood a black stone prison, crafted from black stone. The stones emitted a faint spiritual light, and it seemed as though a large formation had been formed, sealing the prison within. Long Xiang approached the prison, and his gaze fixed on a figure inside. There, a woman in a white dress was sitting quietly, meditating. Her features were serene, with her black hair flowing smoothly down her back. Her almond-shaped eyes and slender brows exuded a sense of wisdom, and her calm demeanor showed no signs of panic despite her current predicament. In fact, her eyes were tranquil as if unaffected by the situation. If Mu Chen were here, he would be astounded, for the woman before him was none other than Ling Xi, whom he had lost contact with after their separation at the Northern Heaven Spiritual Academy. Ling Xi. Long Xiang gazed at the woman in the prison, a smile forming on his face. He felt that Ling Xi was slowly beginning to resemble the master more and more. Ling Xi inside the prison slowly lifted her head. When she saw Long Xiang, she smiled gently and said, Big brother Long Xiang. Long Xiang gave a wry smile and sighed helplessly. I really don't understand why you came here on your own. You knew full well that this is the Futu ancient clan's territory, guarded by great perfection level experts. It was Ling Xi who had suddenly arrived at Emerald Spirit Island all those years ago, and as expected, she was imprisoned by Gu Shi Wang for 3 years. Ling Xi smiled slightly upon hearing this. Her eyes were fixed on the smooth black floor, and a faint, imperceptible glimmer passed through her gaze. She chuckled softly because Aunt Jing stayed here for a while as well. Hearing this response, even Long Xiang couldn't help but roll his eyes in exasperation, feeling utterly helpless. Is there something you need, big brother Long Xiang? Ling Xi asked with a smile. Long Xiang hesitated for a moment before nodding. We've received news about the master's child. Ling Xi suddenly lifted her head, and Long Xiang saw something he had never expected, a fleeting, uncontrollable look of joy that appeared on her cool, fair face, as if a rare flower had bloomed. Mu Chen. Finally, there's news of you. She lowered her head slightly, her smile gentle. In the frozen space, time seemed to lose its meaning, flowing slowly as if it were eternal. The brilliance of the Luo Xun divine body was simply too dazzling. Its beauty was mesmerizing, captivating all who laid eyes upon it. Moreover, Luo Li's displayed talent left many in awe. It was as if they were witnessing the reincarnation of that legendary beauty from the ancient era, the one who had enchanted countless heavenly supremes across the great thousand worlds. Compared to the immense focus on Mu Chen and Luo Li, Elder Winterchill garnered far less attention. The intelligence reports made it clear that he was personally nurtured by the Western Battle Emperor, ensuring his unwavering loyalty. Since poaching him was nearly impossible, there was little reason to dwell on him. Nevertheless, The revelation of the three continental heirs from the western heaven continent sent ripples throughout the great thousand worlds, drawing not only attention but also other, more enigmatic interests. Somewhere within the great thousand worlds, in a bustling metropolis, an elderly man dressed in simple robes strolled slowly down a crowded street, leaning on his cane. A red gourd hung from his waist, swaying gently with each step. Though his posture appeared hunched, the throngs of people moving around him never seemed to brush against him, as if he existed in a different dimension altogether. Suddenly, he halted. Lifting his cloudy eyes, he gazed toward the side of the street, where a spiritual energy barrier shimmered. Within it, an intense battle was unfolding. To the old man, such a level of combat was almost child's play. Yet, as his gaze sharpened upon the battlefield within the barrier, a piercing light erupted from his previously murky eyes. He fixated on a breathtakingly elegant figure within the battle. After a long pause, a grin spread across his face. He unfastened the gourd from his waist, took a heavy swig, and chuckled. The heavens do not disappoint those who seek. A fine seedling indeed, a fine seedling. As his words faded, he suddenly turned, and in that very moment, his aged figure vanished into thin air. The great thousand worlds, 10,000 islands continent. This was a truly unique land, composed of countless islands. Despite being labeled as islands, many of them were vast, rivaling even some of the smaller continents in size. At the heart of this 10,000 islands continent lay a massive island covered entirely by a lush bamboo forest. Mist swirled above its surface, and powerful heaven and earth spiritual energy gathered in abundance, marking it as a rare and precious land for cultivation. Upon closer inspection, one would notice that the bamboo trees were unlike ordinary ones. They gleamed like emerald jade, their entire forms radiating a faint luminescence. A delicate fragrance drifted through the air. Merely inhaling it could calm the mind, and even one's spiritual energy would begin to flow more smoothly in response. This green bamboo is called emerald spirit bamboo, and it can be used to make emerald spirit incense. When lit during cultivation, it not only enhances training efficiency, but also prevents the practitioner's spiritual energy from going astray and falling into demonic deviation. For many cultivators, this is a rare treasure. It is said that a single stick of emerald spirit incense can be exchanged for nearly 10,000 drops of supreme spiritual liquid. Right now, this island is completely covered with emerald spirit bamboo. If it were to be traded for supreme spiritual liquid, it would be worth at least $1 billion or so. Such an enormous value is something even top-tier forces would struggle to extract, no matter how much they drained it. Generally speaking, places like this are bound to attract countless covetous eyes, especially on the 10,000 islands continent, where numerous factions stand tall and various warlords rule the seas with supreme arrogance. However, even those forces with Super Earth Supreme experts in charge would not dare to covet Emerald Spirit Island. This is because Emerald Spirit Island belongs to one of the 5 ancient clans of the Great Thousand Worlds, the Futu Ancient Clan. The Futu Ancient Clan is one of the oldest races in the Great Thousand Worlds, with an incredibly deep foundation that no one can fathom. Even superpowers possessing heavenly supremes would show considerable caution when dealing with this ancient clan. Therefore, with the Futu Ancient Clan backing it, Emerald Spirit Island is one of the safest places in the entire 10,000 islands continent. Any forces that venture here show the utmost respect, not daring to display even a hint of greed or hostility. They all understand very well that, despite their dominance on the 10,000 islands continent, in the eyes of the Futu Ancient Clan, a mighty force, these powers are nothing more than small players. A deep rumble erupted within him as his entire skeletal structure resounded, the sound akin to muffled thunder rolling through his body, shaking the air with deafening roars. Each thunderous tremor caused subtle ripples to spread through the surrounding space. Chen rose to his full height, his long hair flowing freely. The next moment, the vast spiritual energy within him could no longer be contained, erupting like a collapsing mountain and a raging sea. Boom! An overwhelming wave of spiritual energy swept out, carrying an infinite pressure that enveloped the entire void. More astonishingly, its intensity was rising at an insane speed. In the blink of an eye, it surged to the pinnacle of the lower Earth Supreme level. Yet, even then, it did not stop. Mu Chen's robe billowed though there was no wind, flapping wildly. Even his skin trembled as spiritual energy slithered beneath it like serpents. In just over 10 breaths, an immense pillar of spiritual light, stretching over hundreds of thousands of feet, burst into the sky from Mu Chen's body. Boom! A clap of thunder roared, and in that instant, the spiritual energy within him surged wildly, breaking through its previous limits with unstoppable force. In just a few breaths, he shattered the final barrier, stepping firmly into the realm of an upper Earth Supreme. Vast spiritual energy held around him, its might several times greater than when he had fought on the upper Earth Supreme battlefield. The radiance surrounding Mu Chen gradually withdrew as he lowered his gaze, looking at his own hands now brimming with boundless power. At this moment, even with his temperament, he could not suppress the trace of excitement welling up within him. Upper Earth Supreme. By leveraging the power of this Continental baptism, he had accomplished a great leap, breaking through from lower Earth Supreme directly into the upper Earth Supreme realm. This baptism lasted a full 3 years. However, Mu Chen's growth had not been achieved overnight. It had taken a complete 3 years. Of course, this wasn't 3 years in the Great Thousand Worlds, but within this ancient starry sky. The mystical baptism power had distorted time here, slowing its flow. Thus, while 3 years had passed in this space, less than half a year had gone by in the outside world. This 3-year refinement brought Mu Chen great relief. His cultivation speed had never been slow, so he did not need any forced, unstable breakthroughs. What he truly needed was steady progress, a solid foundation. Clearly, this Continental baptism was perfectly aligned with his expectations. 3 years of refinement not only allowed him to seamlessly step into the upper Earth Supreme realm, but it also made his foundation even more solid. With such a foundation, his future pursuit of great perfection or even heavenly supreme would be free of hidden dangers. A satisfied smile appeared on Mu Chen's face. He raised his palm, feeling the boundless spiritual energy converging within it. He could sense that his spiritual energy was now distinctly different from before. It had become more fluid, more substantial. It's said that a heavenly supreme spiritual energy is so dense that every drop can form rivers and seas, as heavy as mountains. Mu Chen pondered for a moment. It seemed that the ancient and primordial spiritual energy within this starry sky had some connection to his future breakthrough to Heavenly Supreme. Though the path to Heavenly Supreme was still far away, this baptism had given him some insight into that journey. This Continental baptism truly lives up to its reputation. Mu Chen smiled faintly, evidently satisfied with the benefits he had gained. No wonder even the Flame Emperor had strongly recommended it. His gaze shifted toward where Luo Li had been, but her graceful figure was already gone. It seemed she had completed her baptism ahead of him and left first. Mu Chen suddenly noticed a glimmer of spirit light in the direction Luo Li had been. With a wave of his hand, it flew toward him, landing in his palm. Then, Luo Li's voice unexpectedly echoed in his ears. Mu Chen, someone is waiting for you in the Luo God clan. I can't determine whether they come with good or ill intentions. If you've completed your baptism, be careful. Also, though I'm unsure of their origins, based on my guess, they may be from the Futu ancient clan. The moment those last 4 words entered his ears, Mu Chen's pupils contracted sharply, and a cold, murderous aura slowly surfaced on his face. Futu ancient clan. He murmured to himself, his dark eyes flashing with an icy glint. So, they finally come looking for me? In the next moment, his figure flickered and disappeared into the vast, ancient starry sky, leaving behind only his chilling voice, gradually fading into the void. Luo God Palace. A lean middle-aged man sat motionless in his chair, expressionless, his breath so faint it was nearly imperceptible. If not for the occasional flicker of spirit light in his eyes, anyone would have mistaken him for a statue. And yet, this man had remained completely still in this place for an entire month. Seated at the head of the grand hall, Luo Li furrowed her delicate brows. Ever since he had stated his purpose, this man had not spoken another word, making it impossible for her to discern his true intentions. One thing, however, was certain. This person was from the Futu ancient clan, one of the 5 ancient clans of the Great Thousand Worlds. Luo Li had noticed a faint, nearly imperceptible black pagoda pattern on the sleeve of his robe. In the Great Thousand Worlds, few forces bore such a mark, and the Futu ancient clan was one of them. Mu Chen's mother is from the Futu ancient clan. Luo Li had met Mu Chen's mother in the past and knew of her origins. More importantly, she also knew that it was the Futu ancient clan that had kept Mu Chen and his mother apart, preventing their family from reuniting. That meant there was no way Mu Chen could have a good relationship with them. With that thought, Luo Li looked at the middle-aged man and said, "You have waited here long enough. There's no point in continuing. Please leave. Mu Chen will not return here." The middle-aged man lifted his gaze and said in a deep voice, "So, you've already passed the message to him." As his words fell, an overwhelming aura erupted from within him, as if countless dragon elephants were roaring in unison. The sheer power radiating from him caused the solid stone floor of the grand hall to crack and shatter into dust. Yet despite the immense pressure, Luo Li's crystal-clear eyes remained fearless. Boundless spiritual energy surged around her, and behind her, a colossal supreme Dharmakaya seemed on the verge of materializing. Though she was not yet a match for a half-step great perfection expert, with the power of the Luotian divine body, she could still put up a fight. Furthermore, if this man dared to cause chaos in the Luo God clan, he would be violating the rules of the Western Heaven Battle Hall. If that happened, the inspector envoys of the Western Heaven Battle Hall would undoubtedly intervene. However, the middle-aged man did not attack. He merely stared at Luo Li in silence before letting out a disappointed sigh. I didn't expect him to run away before even fighting. How disappointing. Does he really think that running away forever will work? Against the power of the Futu ancient clan, sooner or later, you will have nowhere left to run. When that day comes, what will he do then? Hearing the deep disappointment and disdain in his words, Luo Li also felt a faint stir of anger. Just as she was about to speak in defense of Mu Chen, a familiar voice suddenly rang out from the entrance of the Great Hall. A mere half-step great perfection thinks he can make Mu Chen retreat before the battle even begins? You really overestimate yourself. Luo Li quickly lifted her delicate face and saw, standing in the sunlight at the entrance of the hall, a tall, slender young man with a smile on his face. His handsome features carried a hint of coldness. Upon seeing Mu Chen, Luo Li let out a quiet sigh of relief. With Mu Chen's strength, he would undoubtedly gain something significant from this continental baptism. Even if he couldn't defeat a half-step great perfection, he would certainly be more than capable of avoiding the other's attacks. Behind Luo Li, Luo Heavenly God and Luo Tianlong, the Earth Supremes of the Luo God clan, slightly changed their expressions upon Mu Chen's appearance. The middle-aged man clearly came for Mu Chen, and with Mu Chen's sudden arrival, the situation might spiral out of control. Facing a half-step great perfection, they felt an immense pressure. On his seat, the middle-aged man cast a sharp, blade-like gaze directly at Mu Chen. When he clearly saw Mu Chen's face, there was a subtle shift in his eyes. "So you're Mu Chen?" the middle-aged man asked slowly. "Name unchanged, surname unchanged, no fake here," Mu Chen replied with a faint smile and a nod. "Good. If today you were too afraid to even face me and fled, I would truly feel that your mother has wasted her efforts protecting you," the middle-aged man said. Mu Chen shook his head and smiled again. "As I said earlier, a half-step great perfection doesn't have that kind of ability." He had no good feelings for the Futu ancient clan, so he didn't bother giving the man any face. The middle-aged man nodded but didn't say much more. Just as everyone let out a sigh of relief, the next moment, he suddenly sprang to his feet. Roar. A violent dragon elephant roar reverberated within him. Stepping forward, his figure moved as though by teleportation, directly appearing in front of Mu Chen. He then threw a punch. The punch seemed simple, but as the wind from his fist howled, vast spiritual light surged, and within it, dragon elephants roared, unleashing a terrifying power. This punch possessed an extreme level of force. If it were any ordinary Upper Earth Supreme, they would likely be killed with a single blow. However, Mu Chen's expression remained unchanged, as if he wasn't surprised by the middle-aged man's sudden move. He took a deep breath, and the next moment, his jet-black eyes also burst forth with dazzling spiritual light. Roar. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist, and as he punched, the true dragon and true phoenix spirits on his arm emitted crisp, melodious dragon roars and phoenix cries, releasing an overwhelming pressure. After undergoing the refining power of the Continental baptism, the true dragon and true phoenix spirits on Mu Chen's body had broken through, reaching the level of a lower Earth Supreme. Now, combined with the power of his own cultivation, the strength they formed was enough to crush any Upper Earth Supreme. In fact, even if Spirit Warrior stood before him, Mu Chen's punch would likely severely injure him. Boom. The 2 fists, both containing terrifying power, collided like 2 destructive meteors. Bang. A deep sound echoed, but surprisingly, The terrifying clash didn't cause the expected devastation. However, those with sharp eyes would notice that the hard floor beneath their feet had turned into dust within a 10-odd-meter radius, and beneath the dust was an abyssal pit. The space at the point of impact twisted violently, and the next moment, both their bodies shook violently. Mu Chen was sent flying backward, his feet skidding across the ground, retreating several dozen steps. The middle-aged man also took several steps back. Overall, their clash ended in a draw. Both of their footprints were deeply embedded in the ground, each step leaving a black mark due to the immense pressure. Their exchange happened in a flash. As they separated, Luo Li suddenly stood up, her cold gaze fixed on the middle-aged man as the Luo divine manifestation began to take shape behind her. With her and Mu Chen joining forces, even if the person in front of them was at the half-step great perfection level, he would probably still be left here today. Behind Luo Li, Luo Heavenly God, Luo Tianlong, and the others were stunned. While they all knew Mu Chen had defeated the spirit warrior, and his battle strength was certainly extraordinary, the person in front of them was not just an upper earth supreme, he was at the half-step great perfection level. Such strength was already approaching the realm of earth supreme great perfection, far beyond what an upper earth supreme peak could compare to. But who could have imagined that, in the earlier clash, Mu Chen hadn't been at a disadvantage at all? Clearly, in less than half a year, Mu Chen's strength had made an astonishing leap forward. The middle-aged man steadied himself, his expression also one of shock. It was evident he hadn't expected Mu Chen to stand his ground, meeting his overwhelming force head-on without giving way. And, in this direct clash, he hadn't gained much of an advantage. It should be noted that the middle-aged man's cultivation method was focused on increasing power. One punch from him would bring forth the power of the dragon elephant, unstoppable and domineering. But in his earlier collision with Mu Chen, he felt as if his prideful strength was being suppressed. It was as though Mu Chen's power was on a whole different level, even more advanced than his own. Elsewhere in the hall, Mu Chen clenched his fist, his eyes full of astonishment. He was equally stunned by the terrifying strength of the middle-aged man before him. Had it not been for his true dragon and true phoenix spirits breaking through to the lower Earth Supreme level, a direct punch like that would have left him severely wounded. This guy's strength is terrifying. If it's purely about power, even a true Earth Supreme great perfection might not be stronger than him, Mu Chen thought, his eyes flashing. This guy was clearly no ordinary half-step great perfection. If a real battle were to unfold today, it would surely be a fierce and rare fight. Mu Chen's expression grew solemn, spiritual energy surging within him, his gaze fixed warily on the middle-aged man. However, in the midst of his serious preparation, the middle-aged man unexpectedly smiled, a rare smile, filled with warmth and approval. Truly deserving of being the master's child. At such a young age, you've already reached this remarkable level. Seeing the man's warm smile, Mu Chen was momentarily taken aback. Before Mu Chen could react, the middle-aged man suddenly knelt on one knee in front of him, shocking Mu Chen, Luo Li, and the others. Their astonishment was plain to see as they hadn't expected such a sudden shift in his behavior. The man who had seemed so aggressive just moments ago was now showing this humble posture. Moreover, the respect on his face was genuine, not a trace of pretense. Luo Li and the others exchanged puzzled glances, clearly not understanding what attitude the middle-aged man was now showing. After a brief moment of shock, Mu Chen regained his composure, though his vigilance did not lessen. He stared at the middle-aged man, whose name was Long Xiang, and asked, "Are you from the Futu Ancient Clan?" "Yes," Long Xiang nodded. "Then you should know the Futu Ancient Clan's attitude towards me." Mu Chen smiled faintly, but his eyes were sharp as he looked at Long Xiang. "People from the Futu Ancient Clan probably wouldn't act like this towards me." In response to Mu Chen's questioning, Long Xiang calmly nodded and said, "I am indeed from the Futu Ancient Clan. However, if it weren't for the master, I would have long since become a pile of bones. The master gave me a second chance at life, and in my heart, the master holds a position higher than the Futu Ancient Clan." "Your master?" Mu Chen's eyes flickered. Long Xiang smiled slightly and said, "She is your mother, Qing Yanjing." Mu Chen's gaze remained fixed on Long Xiang, and from the latter's eyes, he saw no hesitation. Moreover, when Long Xiang spoke of Qing Yanjing, Mu Chen could feel the deep respect in his words. After a moment of silence, the vigilance and suspicion in his eyes gradually receded. Considering the ancient ways of the Futu Ancient Clan, it was unlikely that they would resort to such deceitful methods to deal with him. With their immense strength, it would be far more effective for them to send a true Upper Earth Supreme or even a Heavenly Supreme directly. With that thought, he quickly stepped forward, helped Long Xiang to his feet, and smiled. "Big brother Long Xiang, please get up. If you don't mind, just call me Mu Chen. I can't accept the title of young master." Long Xiang shook his head. "Your mother is my master, so naturally, you are my young master." His words were firm, clearly unwilling to change his stance on this matter. Mu Chen scratched his head, feeling a bit helpless. Over the years, he had been striving on his own. Although his mother came from the Futu ancient clan and was a genuine grandmaster of spirit arrays, he hadn't received the kind of lofty status and resources that others might imagine. So, for someone as powerful as Long Xiang, who was almost at the peak of the great perfection, to respectfully call him young master, he really felt quite uncomfortable. But seeing Long Xiang's stubborn gaze, he decided not to dwell on the matter. "Forget what I said earlier, big brother Long Xiang. Please don't take it to heart." At first, he had assumed that Long Xiang was sent by the Futu ancient clan, which was why he hadn't been very polite. Long Xiang smiled and said with satisfaction, "Young master truly lives up to being the child of the master. Your talent is extraordinary, and what's even more impressive is that even without your mother's support, you've reached such a level. It's truly remarkable." His words came from the heart. Mu Chen was so young, yet his achievements were astounding. Not only was he the continental heir of the Western Heaven continent, but he had also reached the Upper Earth Supreme Realm. The most terrifying part was that even someone as strong as Long Xiang didn't feel confident in defeating him. If the young master had grown up in the Futu ancient clan, with their resources, he would undoubtedly be the most likely candidate to be the next clan leader, not weaker than young master Xian Luo, who is currently at the peak of power in the clan. Long Xiang sighed. Mu Chen only smiled lightly, not feeling any regret. Over the years, he had grown used to relying on himself, so he had no desire for the vast resources of the Futu ancient clan. "Big brother Long Xiang, how's my mother doing?" Although he wasn't interested in the Futu ancient clan's resources, Mu Chen was deeply concerned about his mother's situation. He had had no contact with the clan in the past, and now that someone from her side had appeared, he naturally had to ask for details. "Your mother is imprisoned within the clan, but she's doing well. She likely just misses you and your father too much," Long Xiang said with a faint smile, then added with some pride, "Your mother's strength is unfathomable. Even the first elder dares not pressure her too much. If it weren't for your mother not wanting them to involve you, they probably wouldn't be able to restrict her freedom." Mu Chen breathed a small sigh of relief. It made sense. Even a clan as powerful as the Futu ancient clan would have to pay a steep price to deal with a grandmaster of spirit arrays. However, thinking that his mother was imprisoned voluntarily because of him made him feel a twinge of pain and guilt. Young master need not blame himself. "Your mother will be very proud of your achievements," Long Xiang said, seemingly sensing Mu Chen's inner guilt and offering comfort. Mu Chen nodded. He wasn't one to wallow in self-pity. There was no point in feeling sorry for himself here. What he needed to do now was grow strong enough to make sure that the Futu ancient clan would never be able to use him to threaten his mother again. In the hall, Luo Li and the others, seeing the tension dissipate and the two men becoming more harmonious, also secretly breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, it seemed that this difficult middle-aged man was more of an ally than an enemy. "Young master has earned the title of Continental heir on the Western Heaven continent, and your name is gradually spreading. People within the Futu ancient clan have already started to notice you," Long Xiang reminded Mu Chen. Mu Chen wasn't surprised by this. He knew that with the Futu ancient clan's strength, he couldn't remain unnoticed forever. But now, he was no longer the frail young man he once was. With his growing power, even facing a true Upper Earth Supreme, he felt confident that he could fight back. Moreover, even if the Futu ancient clan really invested heavily and sent a Heavenly Supreme to deal with him, he would still be able to call for reinforcements to counter them. The bottom line is this. He now possesses the strength to protect himself and no longer has to worry about a powerful figure from the Futu ancient clan appearing to capture him and use his mother as leverage. "I'll be more careful," Mu Chen said with a smile towards Long Xiang. While he no longer feared the Futu ancient clan, caution was still necessary. After all, for a clan to become one of the ancient clans, the Futu ancient clan was no simple force. Long Xiang nodded. His gaze flickered slightly as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he swallowed his words. At that moment, someone suddenly entered the hall, kneeling before Luo Li and respectfully said, "Your Majesty, someone sent a message into the palace earlier, but we don't know who it is from." The person raised both hands, holding a jade piece. Luo Li was slightly taken aback. She gestured, and the jade piece flew into her hand. She sensed it briefly, and her delicate face changed. Her beautiful eyes turned towards Mu Chen. What happened? Mu Chen asked, noticing her reaction. Luo Li hesitated for a moment, then infused spiritual energy into the jade piece. Instantly, a burst of spiritual light erupted from it, forming a light screen. Within the light screen was an elderly man dressed in grayish-white robes, sitting in front of a black tower. The old man's gaze seemed to pierce through space, locking onto Mu Chen. A calm voice echoed, "Sin child Mu Chen, perhaps Long Xiang has already met with you. Whether or not he has captured you, I only intend to tell you this. If you wish to save this woman, come to Emerald Spirit Island on the 10,000 Islands continent. Otherwise, I will hand her over to the clan. Once the punishment begins, there will be no mercy." As the old man finished speaking, the light screen revealed a black prison. Inside, a cold and serene woman in a white dress sat quietly. Spirit Xi. Upon seeing the woman in white, Mu Chen's pupils contracted sharply, and an intense killing intent erupted from his eyes in an instant. "If you don't want to see her perish, then I await your arrival at Emerald Spirit Island." The old man smiled indifferently and waved his sleeve. The spiritual light screen dissipated, and the jade piece turned to dust. The hall fell silent, with only the grim expression on Mu Chen's face to break the quiet. He never expected that Spirit Xi, who had disappeared for years, would be imprisoned on Emerald Spirit Island. Mu Chen turned to Long Xiang and asked in a low voice, "Brother Long Xiang, is what that old man said true?" Long Xiang was silent for a moment before nodding. "Spirit Xi is indeed imprisoned on Emerald Spirit Island. Xun'er Wang previously used her to threaten me, forcing me to bring you back to Emerald Spirit Island. I had planned to find an opportunity to rescue Spirit Xi after meeting with you. But it seems that old man had someone send this message to you right after me. It appears he knew that even if I met you, I wouldn't bring you back. Young master, that old man is ruthless. He wants you to fall into his trap. Emerald Spirit Island has been under his control for years, and it's practically impenetrable. Even if a perfect Earth Supreme went, it would still be incredibly difficult to break through. Moreover, Xun'er Wang is himself a powerful, perfect Earth Supreme. Long Xiang advised, and although Mu Chen's strength was commendable, in Long Xiang's eyes, facing a perfect Earth Supreme was still impossible. Mu Chen smiled faintly at Long Xiang's words, neither confirming nor denying them. He nodded lightly and replied calmly, "Brother Long Xiang, I know that old man wants me to fall into his trap, but perhaps there's something he hasn't considered. And that is, his trap is a bit too small. By the time the trap breaks, it won't be a man hunting an eagle, but an eagle hunting a man." At this point, Mu Chen's lips curled into a faint smile, a chill running through the air as Long Xiang felt a cold, murderous aura that seemed to freeze everything in its path. It was the icy, ruthless killing intent of a harsh winter.